Have you ever watched American politics and always wanted to understand American politics better as a subject matter, but left feeling more confused than ever before? I want to let you know something. That is not your fault. Most political content today is designed to make you feel something. And there is a very big difference between those two subject matters. Whether you are new to American politics or you have been trying to understand American politics for quite some time, but left feeling confused and lost in understanding American politics as a subject matter, I'm here to help you teach and understand American politics better. By the end of this video, I will give you a strong 3-step framework on how to better understand American politics, any policy matter, any subject matter, any debate, and any election or any issue on the issue of American politics. That is the foundation of what I teach in my videos on American politics. And I'm going to give you everything away for free right now. My name is Tran, and this channel is called The Political Gentleman. The premise for everything that I do in my videos is simple. There's a difference between a person who has a political opinion and someone who has political understanding. One is very common, while the other person is very rare. The person who has something that is very rare, political understanding, is the one who commands respect in the room. The framework for what I do for all my videos is done through a 3-step analytical framework called the politics framework. The politics framework is used to understand every issue analytically through any issue, any political subject matter, any politics, any issue, or any subject matter, so that anyone who understands politics as a subject matter can left feeling more reasoned and have more understanding of that subject matter. The purpose of my politics 3-step framework is to leave that person with clarity rather than confusion, reason rather than reaction. Here's what we are covering. Step 1, context first. Why you should never analyze a political event in isolation. Step 2, map the incentives. How to identify who actually benefits from a political outcome and why that matters more than what any politician says publicly. Step 3, project the consequences. The difference between how a partisan commentator thinks and how a genuine statesman thinks about outcomes. Then I'm going to walk away with you through all 3 steps using one real concrete political example so you can see exactly how this works in practice. Let's get into it right now. Before we get into the 3-step framework, I want to give you something that most political content does not give you, and that is context. So let me give you an example. When you watch a political debate or read a political headline or listen to a politician make an argument on an issue, what is the first thing you do? For most people, they react. They either agree or disagree based upon how the argument lands emotionally. That is not a character flaw. That is what political content has been engineered to produce. But here's a problem with reacting before understanding. Every political event, every policy debate, every election, every piece of legislation exists inside a context that stretches back decades, sometimes centuries. And when you react to the surface of a political event without understanding that context, you are not actually analyzing the event. You are responding to a carefully constructed presentation of that event. Think about it this way. Imagine someone handed you a page torn from the middle of a novel and asked you to tell them what the book is about. You can make guesses. You might even be partially right, but you are working without the beginning of the story. That is how most people engage with politics. That is exactly what the politics framework is designed to correct. The 3 men whose thinking most influenced this framework, Lincoln, Bismarck, and Tocqueville, shared one analytical habit above everything else. Before they drew any conclusion about a political situation, they asked, where did this come from? Not what does this look like today? Where did this come from? That is step 1. Step 1, context first. Never analyze a political event in isolation. Every political issue, whether it be healthcare law, immigration law, tax reform, or illegal immigration, has a political history behind that issue. That history is not ancient trivia. However, the history of that political issue is the context of how that political issue is framed. Let's use an example of a current political issue that politicians and private citizens have been debating about today: the federal minimum wage debate. If you come to this debate cold, meaning you've only read the headlines on this issue, one person will say, raise the federal minimum wage, while another person says, do not raise the federal minimum wage. If you are not careful about how you approach the context of this issue, the federal minimum wage, you are likely to choose which side, whether to raise the minimum wage or not to raise the minimum wage, based upon what sounds most appealing to you in the moment. But if you apply the context first, you begin by starting to ask the question, where did the federal minimum wage come from? What problem was the federal minimum wage originally designed to solve? What happened when the federal minimum wage was raised? What was the history and the problem the federal minimum wage was designed to solve in the federal government and the state government? And then what happened when the state governments independently raised the federal minimum wage? Suddenly, you are not dealing with two sides of an issue. You are dealing with an actual picture to frame the issue at hand. Here is the practical habit. Before you form any opinion on a political issue, ask 3 context questions. First, when did this issue emerge and what was the original problem it was designed to address? Second, how has the issue evolved over the past 20 to 50 years? Third, what has actually happened in places that have tried different approaches to this issue? Those 3 questions will give you more analytical clarity than 10 hours of cable news commentary. Context is not background reading. Context is the foundation of every serious political judgment. Step 2, map the incentives. This is a step that most people, even politically engaged people, consistently skip, and it is the step that separates genuine analysis from sophisticated opinion. Here is the core principle. In politics, what a person says publicly and what a person is motivated to do institutionally are almost never identical. That is not a cynical statement. Is it a structured one? Every political actor, whether that is a senator, a president, a political party, a lobbying organization, or a media company, operates within a set of incentives. Electoral incentives, financial incentives, institutional incentives, social incentives. A politician running for re-election in a swing district has a very different incentive than a politician in a safe district. A media company funded by advertising revenue has different incentives than a nonprofit journalist outlet. A senator in their final term has different incentives than a senator planning to run for president. When you understand the incentive structures of the actors in a political debate, their behavior, which often looks irrational or hypocritical on the surface, starts to make complete logical sense. Let me bring this back to the minimum wage example. A business lobby opposing a minimum wage increase is not necessarily doing so because they believe low wages are morally acceptable. They are doing so because their institutional incentive is to minimize labor costs. That is their structural interest. A politician in a high cost of living district supporting a minimum wage increase is not necessarily doing so because they have conducted a rigorous economic analysis. They may be doing so because supporting it is electorally advantageous in the district. Neither of those observations is a criticism. They are incentive maps. And once you have mapped incentives of every major actor in a political debate, you are no longer watching a morality play. You are watching an institutional negotiation. And that is something you can actually analyze. The practical step for step 2 is always this. Who benefits from this outcome and in what specific way? Ask that about every actor in the debate. The answers will reorganize everything you thought you understood about the issue. Step 3, project the consequences. This is where political analysis stops being an academic exercise and starts being something that directly affects your life. Here's what I mean by projecting consequences. Every political decision, every piece of legislation passed, every regulation implemented, every election outcome produces a chain of effects. Some of those effects are immediate and visible. Others take years to materialize. Others are completely unattended by the people who made the decision in the first place. A statesman thinks about all 3 categories. A partisan commentator typically thinks about only the first one, the immediate visible effect, because that is what generates the emotional reaction that drives engagement. Let me explain political ideology, explain through this lens for a moment, because this is where beginners often get lost. When you hear terms like progressive or conservative, liberal or libertarian, What you are actually hearing are different frameworks for projecting political consequences. A conservative generally weighs the long-term stability cost of rapid institutional change. A progressive generally weighs the long-term equity cost of preserving existing institutional unchanged. Neither framework is wrong. They are different lenses for projecting consequences over different time horizons and for different populations. Understanding that is not the same as agreeing with either one, but it is essential for how to understand politics. Because once you see political ideology explained as competing consequence frameworks rather than competing moral tribes, the entire landscape of political discourse becomes readable in a way it simply was not before. The practical habit for step 3 is to ask 3 questions about every political outcome. First, what is the immediate visible consequence of this decision? Second, what is the likely consequence over a 5 to 10-year horizon? Third, who bears the cost of this decision and who captures the benefits, and are those the same people? That third question is the only one that most political commentators never ask, and it is the one that will consistently give you the clearest view of what a political decision actually means. So let us bring all 3 steps together. Context first, map the incentives, project the consequences. Applied to the minimum wage debate or any political issue, this framework does something that partisan media cannot do for you. It gives you a complete picture instead of a persuasive argument. You are no longer asking which side is right. You are asking what is actually happening here, why is it happening, and what will likely follow from each possible outcome. That is how a statesman thinks. And I want to be direct with you about something. This framework is not difficult. It does not require a political science degree. It does not require hours of daily news consumption. It requires a habit of asking better questions before forming conclusions. The men who have shaped political history, like the Lincolns, the Bismarcks, and the Tocquevilles, were not smarter than you. They were more disciplined analytical thinkers. And analytical discipline is completely teachable. That is the premise behind this entire channel. And it is the foundation for everything inside my coaching program. If this video gave you a genuine framework on how to understand politics just a little bit better than before you watched this YouTube video, I ask you to do one thing. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel. The framework for how I understand and teach American politics on my YouTube channel goes through this exact same framework. And in the future, when I publish future YouTube videos about American politics, covering many various issues like the Electoral College, midterm elections, 2026 midterm elections, the presidency, Congress, Supreme Court, and Supreme Court cases that are landmark. All those issues goes through this analytical framework. And if you would like to be coached by me personally, one-on-one through Zoom videos for 3 months or 6 months, I have a one-on-one coaching program where you get to learn about American politics from me directly, where I teach you everything you need to know about American politics through my online course, American Politics, and my one-on-one coaching program, where I give you my all and teach you everything you need to know about American politics so you can become a more knowledgeable and informed citizen of American politics. So that's all for today. Until next time, the next video, we will be talking about the Electoral College using this exact same framework. And I promise you, this is not what you learned in school. Until next time, peace. I'm out.